Imagine a cold so extreme, it feels like your very blood has turned to ice, really gripping you from the inside out.
Yeah.
This isn't just some fictional chill. It's actually at the core of a remarkable historical medical substance we're diving into today.
Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. We're here to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from, well, some pretty fascinating sources.
Exactly.
And today, our focus is Veratrum album, a substance vividly documented in these historical medical texts known as Materia Medica.
And for you listening, our source material comes from the meticulous observations and insights of Dr. James Tyler Kent. He was a really prominent figure in homeopathic medicine. Specifically, we're drawing from his lectures on homeopathic Materia Medica.
Right. And for those maybe less familiar, Materia Medica is basically, a historical encyclopedia. It details the observed effects of various substances on the human body.
Yeah, it formed the basis for how they selected remedies in homeopathy back then.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to really unpack the core characteristics and, frankly, the surprising manifestations associated with Veratrum album.
We want to reveal this vivid historical picture of, well, a unique state of human suffering and a particular way they approached understanding illness.
And if you're looking for that single, most astonishing, pervasive symptom associated with Veratrum album, it is without a doubt coldness.
Coldness. Just cold.
Not just cold. It's not just a feeling on the surface, It's described as a deep internal chill that runs through almost every single symptom group. It's quite remarkable.
Okay, so when you say deep internal chill that runs through almost every symptom group,
Yeah.
how does that actually, manifest? Can you give us some specific examples? Paint that picture for us.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about an extreme coldness that affects everything, really from the inside out. Your sweat is described as cold.
Wow.
Your vomit is cold. Your diarrhea is cold.
Okay.
The entire body feels cold, right down to the fingertips. And the lips and skin can appear fairly purple or bluish.
Bluish, right, like poor circulation.
Exactly, suggesting that profound coldness. And then there's this powerful internal sensation, often described in the texts as coldness as if the blood were ice water.
That is a profound image, not just feeling cold, but feeling as though your actual blood, your very essence, has chilled.
Precisely. It's not just external, you see. Specific areas like the scalp can feel cold. The forehead can be covered with cold sweat, and the extremities, hands and feet, are often described as cold as death.
Cold as death. That's intense.
It is, and this intense coldness, it's frequently accompanied by what Kent calls a remarkable prostration.
Prostration meaning?
Just complete relaxation and exhaustion, almost like the life force is just draining away.
Okay. And it's not just cold and weak, right? You also mentioned these profuse watery discharges, sweat, vomiting, diarrhea, that seem to flow without apparent provocation.
Yes, exactly. And severe cramps often go along with it.
This whole picture just sounds utterly debilitating. It suggests a complete physical collapse, really, doesn't it?
It truly does. And what's fascinating here is the historical context of these observations.
Okay.
Samuel Hahnemann, who founded homeopathy, he actually predicted that Veratrum, along with two others, camphor and cuprum, would be key remedies in treating cholera outbreaks.
Cholera. Wow. How did he predict that?
Well, he saw in their fundamental nature, in the symptoms they produced in healthy people, the ability to cure by similitude. That's the core principle, like cures like.
Right, using substances that produce similar symptoms to treat the illness.
Exactly. So in the midst of these devastating cholera outbreaks, the diagnosticians, the doctors of the time, had to make incredibly subtle distinctions between these remedies.
Okay, so how did they tell them apart? Veratrum, cuprum, camphor. They all sound pretty intense.
They did, but they were distinguished by the dominant features, the characteristic symptom picture, as they called it.
That the picture.
Right. So cuprum was indicated for cases where cramps were just overwhelming, a superabundance of cramps.
Got it. Cramps, cuprum.
Mostly, yes. Camphor, on the other hand, was for what they called dry cholera.
Dry cholera. That sounds like a contradiction.
It does, but it meant patients with that profound coldness and blueness, but with scanty, very little sweat, vomiting, and purging.
So they collapse without losing all the fluid.
Exactly. These individuals would sink down and die without exhaustive discharges, as Kent puts it. A collapse from the inside, almost.
Okay. And Veratrum, our focus today.
Yeah.
Where did that fit into this devastating picture?
Veratrum was the remedy when the copiousness of the discharges, meaning incredibly profuse vomiting and diarrhea, along with the blueness and the coldness, were all present and all really abundant.
So extreme cold, blue skin, and massive fluid loss.
That's the key picture for Veratrum in that context. It just highlights the subtle but absolutely crucial distinctions they were observing, that diagnostic granularity.
It's amazing detail.
And they noted other remedies too, like Sakale for some cholera-like symptoms, Podophyllum for extreme digestive issues, Arsenicum for that anxious restlessness you sometimes see with collapse. It shows how detailed their observations were.
It's striking, though, moving beyond the physical collapse, how Veratrum isn't just about the body, it also paints this really peculiar picture of the mind.
Ah, yes, the mental symptom.
And here's where it becomes, well, truly unsettling, I think, because it describes striking mental symptoms marked by violence and destructiveness.
Yeah, real intensity there.
There's this intense desire to destroy, to tear something, and specifically tearing clothes right off the body.
Which raises the question, what does this level of mental agitation actually look like in a person?
Right.
And the text gives this fascinating anecdote about a cooper.
A barrel maker.
Yeah, a cooper suffering from what was called Veratrum insanity. He would compulsively pile chairs up, believing they were barrel staves. And when he wasn't doing that, he'd be tearing his clothes or praying loudly for hours on end, apparently audible for blocks away.
That is such a vivid image of, well, mental derangement.
Yeah.
And it goes further, describing an exalted state of religious frenzy, where the individual actually believes he is the risen Christ.
Goodness.
They're screaming and screeching until they're blue in the face, literally, but their head is cold as ice, with cold sweat.
That contrast again. Cold head, hot frenzy.
Exactly. And they're exhorting others to repentance, howling, singing obscene songs, even exposing themselves. It's this truly disturbing blend of physical coldness and, well, mental chaos.
Indeed. And the substance is also noted to cover mania with desire to cut and tear everything, especially the clothes.
That tearing again.
Yes, with lewdness and lascivious talk. So basically, a violent, agitated state, but with uncontrolled, often sexualized speech.
Okay.
And it's observed in puerperal mania and convulsions, which is post-childbirth psychosis.
Oh, all right. Postpartum.
A severe form, yeah. Characterized by violent cerebral congestion, intense blood flow to the brain leading to a bluish, bloated face, protruding eyes, wild shrieks, and this disposition to bite and tear things. Or people.
So on one end of the spectrum, we have this wild, destructive frenzy, utter chaos.
Right.
But then the source shifts and talks about profound states of despair and hopelessness that can actually precede the insanity.
That's a crucial point.
Including even attempts at suicide. And there's this interesting distinction made. Those approaching insanity are described as hopeless. But once they're actually considered insane, they apparently think that everybody else is crazy except themselves.
It's a fascinating observation on the progression, isn't it? And what's remarkable here is the belief stated in the text that Veratrum carries them through the state of despair.
So it addresses that pre-insanity phase too.
That's the implication. It also covers melancholia, where the head hangs down and the individual sits brooding in silence, just complete withdrawal.
It illustrates such a broad, often really extreme range of mental distress that was meticulously observed and documented.
Absolutely.
And then there's this incredible claim Kent makes that a few such remedies would empty our insane asylums, particularly for recent cases, implying a potential for recovery if, no incurable damage had occurred.
That's a truly bold assertion, isn't it?
It really is. What do you think that claim, made centuries ago, tells us about both the potential and maybe the limitations of medical understanding back then, looking back from now?
Well, I think it certainly highlights the immense optimism, maybe even the ambition of early homeopathy. They believed that by meticulously matching symptoms, even these severe mental afflictions could potentially be reversed.
Right.
It offers such a stark contrast to the often hopeless institutionalization that was common in that era. And it reveals this deep faith they had in the body's capacity for healing if treated with the right similitude. It also shows us how deeply intertwined physical and mental health were perceived to be, long before modern psychiatry really formalized that connection.
That's a great point.
Oh.
Okay, let's move on to some more specific physical manifestations beyond just the general coldness. Veratrum is associated with troublesome, neuralgic headaches of great violence.
Really severe head pain.
Accompanied by that pervasive coldness, vomiting of bile, and even blood, exhaustion, and that profuse sweat.
And even with that intense pain and what sounds like congestion, there's talk of a violent rush of blood to the head. Paradoxically, the extremities, the hands and feet, remain cold as death.
Another paradox. Hot head, cold feet.
Exactly. And the head itself can feel as if packed with ice, or as if ice lay on the vertex and occiput the top and back of the head.
That's such a specific sensation.
Very specific. And there's also a peculiar tension described in the head, as if the membranes were drawn tighter about the brain.
Wow. That set of sensations is so unique. And I've never heard anything quite like the text's anecdote about that farmer who consulted Dr. Kent.
Ah, the farmer, yes.
He had this incredibly strange sensation when he drank water, right? As if it ran down the outside of his esophagus, not the inside.
Yeah, so strange he asked his friends to watch and check if they could see it happening externally.
Which, of course, they couldn't.
Mm.
How did they figure out, by analogy, something so bizarre? What does that particular observation tell us about the methodology Kent and his peers were using?
Well, it speaks volumes about the meticulousness of their observation, I think, and that holistic approach. They weren't just looking for common symptoms everyone gets.
Right.
They were hunting for the peculiar, the unique, the uncommon ones, what they often called strange, rare, and peculiar symptoms. Those were seen as the most characteristic, the most diagnostic. So the farmer's sensation, though incredibly bizarre, was maybe consistent with other outside-type sensations associated with the remedy's overall symptom picture. It allowed for that unique analogy. It demonstrates, really, an incredible diagnostic acuity based purely on observation.
Fascinating. Okay, moving to the gastrointestinal system, we're looking at vomiting, forcible, and excessive.
Really violent vomiting.
With spasmodic retching and cramping even after the stomach is empty, just bringing up bile.
Yeah, dry heaves essentially, but still cramping. And despite this intense nausea and vomiting, there's often a violent thirst for cold water and for ice.
Wants cold despite being cold.
Another one of those seeming contradictions. And there's a peculiar observation that all fruits cause painful distension of the stomach.
Specific food aggravation.
Yes. And also gnawing hunger in spite of nausea and vomiting.
Hungry while throwing up.
Exactly. And this empty, all-gone feeling in the abdomen after stool, it's just a picture of extreme digestive distress coupled with these really paradoxical sensations.
Now, this next one you mentioned is a classic paradox that really challenges our assumptions, I think. Veratrum has rheumatic and neuralgic pains in the arms and legs.
Right, nerve pains, joint pains.
They're actually worse from the warmth of the bed.
Yeah, that's a big one.
This drives the person out of bed at night into the cold room, where they must walk the floor for relief.
Think about that. Pain so bad in the warmth that you're driven out into the cold air, pacing.
The idea that warmth aggravates pain, driving someone into the cold, is completely counterintuitive for most of us, right? What does this paradoxical relief reveal about the fundamental nature of Veratrum album's action, or maybe just the unique way Kent observes symptoms?
Well, it's a striking counterintuitive symptom, absolutely. And it's often these kinds of things that are hallmarks for distinguishing remedies in homeopathy. It suggests the underlying imbalance is so profound that the body reacts in these totally unexpected ways. It forces the observer, the practitioner, to abandon conventional assumptions about heat comforting pain and rely purely on the specific, often peculiar manifestations of the illness in that individual.
Just trust the observation.
Exactly. And generally you see this internal sensation of chilliness running from head to toes coming on when drinking, anything cold, presumably, and an overall aggravation of many complaints when drinking.
Drinking makes things worse.
Often, yeah. And get this. In the midst of all this cold, there can be a sensation of burning while in cold sweat.
Burning and cold sweat.
Another paradox. And the skin can vary, too. Sometimes it's described as dusky and dry, especially...
But what's particularly poignant, I found, and perhaps offers a unique window into the historical understanding of women's health specifically, is how Veratrum was seen to connect the physical and the mental, particularly in women.
Yes, that's a very strong theme in Kent's lecture on Veratrum.
What's fascinating is the cyclical nature described. He talks about young girls experiencing years of difficult menstrual periods.
Right, painful, difficult periods.
And they would develop this state of despair preceding each period. They'd never smile, the world would seem blue, everything would be dark.
A profound premenstrual depression, essentially.
Exactly. And Kent suggests this would progressively lead them towards a marked state of insanity.
Wow. Linking the menstrual difficulty directly to potential severe mental illness.
Yeah. It almost sounds like he saw Veratrum as a kind of preventive measure, with the belief that it would keep many women out of the insane asylum, especially those with uterine troubles.
Indeed. It really reflects a belief that early intervention, addressing these interconnected physical and mental symptoms tied to the menstrual cycle, could potentially avert severe mental illness later on.
It's quite a perspective.
And the menstrual symptoms themselves were described as a distinct constellation. During the menses, the individual is cold as death.
There's that phrase again.
Lips blue, extremities cold and blue. Dreadful pains, sensation of sinking, just feeling like they're fading away. And can even exhibit this strange mania to kiss everybody or hysteria with coldness, plus the copious sweat, vomiting, and diarrhea we talked about.
It's just this incredibly comprehensive picture of physical and mental distress intertwining, all seen through that very specific historical lens of Kent's Materia Medica.
Absolutely. A very detailed portrait.
So as we sort of synthesize this deep dive, Veratrum album really presents as this powerful, often extreme blend of intense coldness, profound physical collapse, these violent mental states, and also deep despair, and it all seems interconnected.
It does.
It paints such a precise, almost poetic picture of suffering that kind of transcends mere medical terminology, doesn't it? It speaks to something more universal about human experience, maybe.
I think so.
Yeah.
And what this deep dive really teaches us, I think, is about the incredibly intricate ways our bodies and minds express distress.
Yeah.
And how keenly observed symptoms, even without modern technology, could once form the basis for understanding and, they believed, addressing illness. It's a completely different lens, really.
It highlights that remarkable diagnostic acuity of practitioners like Kent, doesn't it? Showing us how much could potentially be discerned from just keen observation alone.
It really does. The power of observation.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. When you encounter an overwhelming sensation, maybe physically, or an inexplicable shift in your own mood, what does this deep dive into historical medical observations suggest? What might it tell us about the hidden connections between our physical being and our mental state?
What patterns might we still be overlooking, even today, right there in plain sight?
Exactly. Something to think about.